Can I request all of you to turn your video on here? I feel it very kind of drying and disconnected from you people when I kind of, teach only the names. It's like you're all so used to become anonymous in this forum, isn't it? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Yes, sir. I am audible. Fine. I am audible. So this is a humble request from my side. If you could turn your video on, it will be very useful. Okay. So let me start the session. So I could see a few nice people. Muhammad, Swati, Sujit. Thank you for turning your video on. Very happy. I feel very disconnected many a time. Great. So let me start the session. Is my PPT visible?
Yes, it is visible.
To all of you guys, and is it moving?
Yeah.
It is moving. Okay. So there's always, these are some of the major problems that we face. So you put the the PPT on and the PPT gets stuck at some slide and then doesn't move. So in case if there is an issue, please don't put in the message. You just unmute and tell me, because sometimes I may be looking at the screen, my PPT screen. So please keep that in mind. So don't have to put in the chat and wait for me to see the chat. So we discussed a lot of things about what are the do's and don'ts while conducting the research in the past number of sessions that we had. From now onwards, what we're going to look into is some of the things that we need to look into when we go for publication. So there are a number of things that a journal look into when to ensure that your paper is written by you. There is no conflict of interest. There is ethical standard followed, etc., etc. So we will be covering a number of those topics. So some of the topics that we'll be covering are these are the issues that we are going to cover. Authorship issues, conflict of interest, funding, original work, plagiarism, which we have already discussed, informed consent, animal and clinical may not be for us. Then when you become a reviewers, editors, what are some of the rights and do the good practice that you need to follow. So those are the things that we are going to discuss as part of this. We will also look into what we call the instructions from COPE. We may not look into WAME because ours is not medical association. Medical ethics may not be directly touching on our kind of research unless somebody is doing a medical imaging kind of research. So otherwise, that's what we are going to do in today's session. We might be able to cover everything in today's session. We will also look into what we call Turnitin and how to use Turnitin and some other very important issues that generally people talk about when we go for publication. In the last session, I asked you to look into the research ethics of how journal looks at and what is journal's expectations when we talk about research ethics. So some other part of the same what do you call the instructions from for the authors. There are also publication ethics in that. We did not look into the publication part in the last session. We were focusing mostly on the research ethics. And I also could see most of you had posted a lot of things in the chat. Thank you for doing that. I hope in that process you learned something more with regard to how to conduct research. I know how to conduct research is not something that somebody has to tell you. What are the ethics and values that you need to keep in mind? But it's always important to get certain reminders, because we always assume a lot of things and we take things for granted, and those things can come back and haunt us if we don't, if we are not very particular about, or if you're not meticulous about doing research. And therefore please take whatever I'm saying as a reminder, because for most of you this may not be new. A lot of things you must have been hearing it from various faculty development programs, various various research forums, etc. But please take it as a reminder. I'm sure from Scree also you will be getting a number of inputs, videos, PDF files on what to do and what not to do while conducting research. I think Dr. Yogesh Patil, who is also conducting the same course for the management, also posts quite a lot of latest policies, frameworks on how to conduct research. So keep a tab on all of those things. Please follow those things. If you do that, there's a high possibility that your paper will get uh, selected without much of a problem. Otherwise, you may get a desk reject um, from your publishers. Now, why publication ethics are important? Because we have conducted the research, and it's important that we get our papers published. Now, publication has become an important kind of mandate for doing PhD. Now, if you look at the number of students conducting PhD in India, is going into lakhs of people. Now, everybody is trying to publish their paper, and the number of journals are not that huge. So, there are a lot of filters that happen. Now, if you want your paper to get through those filters, it's important to follow certain basic etiquettes of how to conduct research. You write a very good paper, send it to a journal, and then the journal do a desk reject. So we don't, I mean, this keeps happening. We want to avoid as much as possible these desk rejects. So what I'm going to do today and in the next few sessions is basically helping you to help you to ensure that your paper do not receive a desk reject. It should at least go to a reviewer's desk. That's the expectation. So an editor has certain mandates for which, because of, if that is not met, he will not even send our papers to a reviewer. And when we are talking about a Scopus journal, a Scopus journal is is all right. So I request all of you to keep your system on mute. Otherwise, it creates unnecessary disturbance. All right. So let us start discussing a few things. So as I said, these are some of the broad things that we are going to discuss. And in between, I'll be going to the COPE website. I think I told you that there is a website called COPE, that is what they call Committee on Publication Ethics. Um, so this is a website on Committee on Publication Ethics, and I will be going back and forth from my PPT and this particular site in today's session. You are able to see my entire screen, correct? I am in the Scope website at this point of time.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. All right. Thank you. So let's go to the next. This is, as I said, this is mostly from COPE and this is from World Medical Association. I'm not going to spend much time on that. So let's start with this particular topic. So let's start with this thing called pre-publication. Now, there is something called pre-publication. So before you publish your paper in a journal, there are sites available that helps you to upload your paper and get comment and peer reviews from others, incorporate those things, and then you can send your paper to a journal for publication. Or you realize that your paper is not very good, but the methodology may not be very good, but the idea is extremely good, and you want your paper to publish in a journal. You want to make your paper available to the public. There is a site called pre-publication sites. So one of the things that we use in India is called SSRN, Social Science Network of Researchers. SSRN, a research network. And there you can actually upload your paper, and those papers I mean, some journals has a problem. They will say if it is published anywhere, even in SSRN, you will not be able to publish in that journal. But many journals accept research papers. Journals has got a policy. You have to declare that it was posted in an SSRN site, and then you can take that paper, make all the corrections, modification, etc., and send it to the journal. Journal will publish a paper. Okay, so that is what we call a pre-publication. Now, this is a site where you can do the pre-publication. This is SSRN network. There are a lot of these papers you can actually sign into. You can register here, and then you can upload the papers. So these are all papers that are uploaded here, and these are all research papers, and you can access a lot of research papers. So whatever is there in the SSRN, they are not published in a journal yet. Okay, so this is a paper. Now you look at, you can get the entire paper. It is freely available to anybody who wants to access this place, download this paper. So you are doing a research, and then you want to know what are the current research that is happening in this particular field. You can go to this particular place, SSRN, Social Science Research Network it is called, and you can access papers on various aspects, on Gen Z, on AI, whatever topics that you want, you will get here. So this is the place that I was telling, which is called SSRN. So say, for example, this paper was downloaded by 210 times. These are the kind of views that the paper has got. And sometimes people also cite papers from SSRN. Now, SSRN cited papers also will get reflected in what we call Google Research, Google Scholar. I hope all of you are aware of this particular site, isn't it? Google Scholar. This is the place where all the published papers get reflected. All the published papers get reflected. So, one of the things that SIU requests and mandates from every student, PhD student, is to create an account here in Google Scholar. It's important for an academic to have a Google Scholar account, and in this Google Scholar account, you will get, say, for example, this is my profile. So I am Dr. Shaji. I have got a profile. Uh, Now, in this, if you look at, I have got all my publication, all the publication that I have done so far is reflecting in this particular page, and it will tell you in which year published, 2025, 2026, what are the papers that are published, and how many people have looked at my papers, how many people have cited my papers. Say, for example, this paper that we together wrote has got 170 citation. This another one has got 53 citation. A third one has got 31, 30, 23. This is how other people have cited my paper. So I want to ensure that whatever, so whenever somebody is using my idea, my research in their paper, they give me credit. I want that credit because each time they acknowledge the my paper, my research paper in their research paper as citation, reference, etc. I get a credit. My this keeps increasing, and then I get this citation, total citations. So, say for example, we talk about I have got 417 of these citations, and high index, H index. I'll talk more about all these indexes, H index, I-10 index, etc., later. And this is the kind of citations. So, for example, in the last year, I received about 140 citations for my research. And this year, it is just about 70, 73 citations that I have received. So I, as a researcher, keep looking for more and more research, more and more citation. Therefore, anybody who is using my research, it's important for them to give me a credit. And that credit is citing my paper in the paper, in your research paper. So again, it is important to support the researchers in our network. So when you write a paper, and if you think somebody in your circle has written a paper of the similar kind of a nature, so please go ahead and cite that person's paper. So his or her citation number increases in the process. Hope what I'm saying makes sense to you people.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So let's continue. So that's why it's important to cite. Okay, I'll come back to the cite a little later. Let's come back to what I was talking about, the pre-publications that we talk about. So pre-print, there are a lot of platforms. One of the platform I told you is SSRN, where you can actually publish your paper even before you send your paper to a journal. Okay, so preprints are research papers shared on publicly accessible platform before undergoing peer review. These platforms like ARXIV, BioRXIVs, SSRN, they allow you to do a lot of rapid dissemination of research. So what happens when you wait for some areas, some kind of journals take almost a year and a half for the paper to get published. And by the time the idea that you wanted to bring in has become outdated, somebody else, there's a lot of things happening. And currently, when you talk about research, the things are moving extremely fast. So within no time, a particular research becomes outdated. So you don't want your research go to waste. And that is where SSRN helps you. And if you put in the SSRN, and it also gets you into a Google Scholar account, and you get citations. If somebody cites your paper, you get number of citations. So that's one way to improve your researcher's credit score. Of course, while doing this, you need to ensure that you do a lot of proper disclosures. The author must ensure that the preprint status is very clear, that it is not sent for any journal, etc., etc. at this point of time. So avoid duplicate publication. Authors should not submit the same paper to a journal without acknowledging its preprint status. So when you are submitting this paper at a later stage to a journal, because that is ultimately what you want is a journal publication, correct? Because journal publication is what gives you credit. So without, if you only publish in SSRN, you will not get your PhD. For your PhD, you need two papers and it has to come in a journal. So that's why it's very important when you're submitting it to a journal, please say that this was already published in an SSRN or whatever that particular network that you uploaded as a preprint. Some journals would say preprints are not allowed. We don't accept. So they will reject your paper. That's fine. There are a lot of journals that allows your paper to go ahead. Now, another way of preprint is what they call conferences. Now, you have done a research and you have not sent your paper to a journal yet, but then you are going to attend the conference. So, conference papers are comparatively smaller, generally about 5 pages. That's the kind of size that we have. So, you send your paper to a conference and then conference during the conference you get a lot of input, a lot of reviews, etc., and a lot of suggestions how to make your paper better. So you incorporate all those things and send it to a journal. That's another way of before you publish your paper, you are telling the world, this is how I have done. So that's another thing that we have to do. But then if you have published and the journal published your paper, and then you cannot send the same paper as it is to a journal, then it will be considered what they call a duplicate publication. So please avoid doing such kind of duplicate publications while conducting research. So when you have submitted the paper to a conference, and when you are resubmitting the same paper to a journal, please ensure your similarities are minimized. So there is, your similarities should be below 10%. So you need to paraphrase, you need to rework, you need to add, etc., etc. So please ensure that there is no duplication of materials from paper A that is published as a conference proceedings and the paper B that you have sent for a journal publication. Third way of submitting your paper to a before you actually send the paper to a journal is what they call public dissemination via media or blogs. So a lot of people who writes white papers, blogs, etc., where you talk about this is a research. So a lot of economic research, a lot of computer science research comes as part of blogs or a newspaper article that you have written, and this is part of a research. Say, for example, every other day, Times of India has got an entire page on various research that is happening in the information technology area. So one week, somebody featured your research. So you have written, an entire half a page of Times of India is about your research. Perfectly fine. That's a way to disseminate because you have done a research. You want maximum people to know about your research, but then it has not become part of the public knowledge base unless and until it is published as a research paper. So you need to submit your paper to a research paper, but then you need to acknowledge the preliminary findings of this research was published as a blog or an article, a LinkedIn blog or an article in a newspaper. That has to be acknowledged. And also ensure that very significant data is not disclosed during that process. Journal policy. Some journals may have policies against media coverage before publication. Consider it prior disclosure. Considering a prior disclosure. Because anything that is already published by somebody, why should I spend my time, energy, and journal space to republish? They don't want to. So I say, but many journals accept a paper that is published as a blog, as a video, newspaper article, or as a conference proceedings. So please keep these things in mind, because this is an important factor when we go for publication. And a lot of people make the mistake of submitting the same as it is to a journal without making any change. Then there's going to be a problem. Or you have made a table or a diagram or a graph and it's already published, and then you are using it in your research paper, but then please cite it. Ensure to acknowledge that this was originally created by the author. However, it was published as part of the blog or newspaper article that was published on so and so date. It has to be very clearly mentioned below the diagram or the image that you are going to publish in the journal. So while sharing this data before publication, there is also what they call raw data. We were talking about the findings previously. Now the raw data or early results, sometimes your collaborators, funders, regulatory agencies may seek access to it. But then you have to be very careful what you share, and whatever you are sharing with these people are not made public or not misused in any way. So confidentiality has to be maintained. Researchers must ensure that sensitive or proprietary information is protected. They cannot be given to anybody without proper authorization. Proper attribution has to be made. Early sharing must not result in others claiming credit for the work. Now, what happens? I'll give you an example. There was a research scholar, a PhD scholar, working under a research guide, and the person collected the data, and the scholar shared all the data, used to share everything with the guide. Now, guide's wife also was doing, let's say, a PhD degree and on the same topic as this research student. So, all the data that the guide received from the student, he shared it with the wife of his wife, and then his wife analyzed this data and published a paper before the research student could do it. And when the research student goes and publishes it, it becomes a duplicate publication. You see how people can misuse. I'm not saying don't trust your guide. You should trust your guide. That's a very basic thing. But ensure that guides don't misuse your data. There's a high possibility that people, it need not be guide. Say you are a researcher, you have conducted a lot of, you collected a lot of survey data, and you submit that survey data with a data analytics expert. So there are a lot of people out there who are going to help you to do the analysis of the data, because you may not be good at doing quantitative analysis of data. Let's say how to use SPSS or some of the very high-end usage of R, etc., etc. You're not very familiar. So you outsource that data analysis to a third party, and that third party who is analyzing the data, instead of giving you the analysis, can sell that data to another person and make money at the process. So all these are possible things where you need to be very careful that how much are you going to disclose, how much you are going to give to that party. All right. So some of the problems, ethical considerations in pre-publication activities, in a summary: plagiarism or misuse. Pre-publication work can sometimes be plagiarized or improperly cited by others. Peer review influence. So premature publication sharing may bias the peer review process. It's like you are sending it to, you have made your paper public in SSRN, and then journal sends this paper, anonymize your name, etc., to a third party to review your paper as a peer reviewer. Now, peer reviewer probably has already seen your paper in SSRN and knows that it is you who has done the publication. I mean, written the paper, and that can lead to a conflict of interest because the expectation of a peer reviewer is that he should not know who has written the paper. But since you have published it in SSRN, he has already know who has written this paper. So that can, so if there is a previous rivalry between your institute and that institute, then that person might reject your paper. So peer reviewing there can be influenced in this process. Conflict with publishers. Some publishers consider pre-publication to be prior dissemination, which might conflict with their submission policy. So these are some of the issues. I said this conflict with publishers is not with everyone. There are many publishers accept it, like Springer and so on. They do accept a pre-publication. So far, so good. Any doubt with regard to pre-publication?
No, sir.
What's
It is
the
clear.
birthday? Huh?
It is clear, sir.
It is clear. Okay. So I am very happy that I am able to, kind of clarify things to such an extent nobody has a doubt. But that it's not a good sign, in fact. A good student is supposed to ask questions. Am I right? All right.
Sir.
So far, so good. I'm not able to see any hands up. Good. So perfect. Now let me go back to my slide. So I showed you SSRN site. SSRN site I showed you, isn't it? So this is a place where you can publish your paper as a pre-publication paper. So you have to create an account and then get into and start working on it. So you can publish your paper, you can download your paper, you get references. So this particular paper has got 235 references. So a lot of possibilities. So this is also a place where you can publish your paper. So your PhD thesis, you can publish here. Everything possible. So far we have completed one topic under the publication ethics. Another big issue is regarding the authorship. Now, I'll give you an example. I'll start with the case study. This happened with us. We, four of us, wrote a paper. So there is faculty A, faculty B, C, and D. Four people together. Actually, three people together wrote the paper. The fourth person was added later. It was a paper. We collected data and we spent a few months writing that research paper. We spent a lot of effort in doing that. And there was one person in particular who was key in ideating, writing, everything, etc. Say I collected the data, somebody analyzed the data, but then the whole idea and writing the paper, etc., was done by the first author of the paper. So three of us wrote, and then we sent this paper to n number of journals. We were getting rejections everywhere, and we didn't know what to do because for us the paper was looking very perfect, everything was good. And then we realized that one of our faculty members is a good publisher. So he has a lot of research papers and he keeps publishing very regularly. And then finally we said, let us, because we were all three of us were new into the research and we were just starting our PhD process. We did not have any Q1 or Q2 or Q3 journals in our credit. So we had a few articles in some paid publication, etc. So we wanted to move from the paid publication to what we call unpaid peer-reviewed journal. Everything was going good. We approached this fourth person and then he said, why not? I'll send the paper. So he sends the paper. So we added a fourth author into the research paper, and then he became the corresponding author. When we started sending, we were getting rejection. So we made that person corresponding author. So the fourth author who joined did not do anything, and then the journal accepted the paper. But while doing the what do you call final editing process, etc., we realized that the order of the authors, that is again very important. When you publish a research paper, who is the first author, who is the second author, who is the third author, who is the corresponding author, these are all something that you need to decide among yourself. So we decided that the new faculty who has joined is going to be the what do you call, the corresponding author. The first author will be that person about whom I was telling, who contributed maximum to do the research. And second author was supposed to be me. Third author was supposed to be the other faculty. So that's how it went ahead. Now, when the proof came, we realized that the corresponding author's name is put as the first author in the list. So, so when you talk about first author, what I mean is, let's say, where is research scholar? Say for example, in this, see, this was a paper primarily written by me. However, we were doing a lot of collaborative research, and in this particular paper, we decided that she is going to be the first author. It was something that we decided much in advance. So, Professor Kulkarni would become the first author. I would become the second author. Patil man will become the third author. In another paper, I became the first author. She became the second, and Patil man became the third author. So we do these kind of internal adjustments. So I may be writing the paper, or together all three has got equal amount of contribution, and we decides. Now what happened in many universities, when you go for your promotions, you need to show that you are the first author. How many papers where you are a first author? And that says that this paper was initiated by you, you are the corresponding author, you are the first author, etc. etc. And 50% of the credit of this paper goes to the first author. Remaining 50% will be divided between these two people. So in many state universities, there is certain points given to first authors. Second author gets a little less, but more than the third author. If there are many authors, then it gets, subsequently, the division happens. So the credit for a particular paper, say for example, in SIU, for a faculty for giving promotion, say for example, when if I had to go for a promotion, it's important that every year there is a faculty, we call it PAR, performance appraisal review that we have. During the PAR, they say that every faculty should get 2 points. Research based 2 points are minimum required for a faculty to, an assistant professor to get his, PAR, the full PAR point, for example. An associate professor should get 3 points. A professor should get 4 points. So, if you are the only author of that paper, you get full point. If you are two authors from the same university, your point will get divided. There are two authors, but then you are from two different universities, then you get full point, 1 point. So you are doing a research paper with, let's say, 4 of your colleagues in symbiosis, then the point, that 1 will be divided between these 4 people. So you will get only 0.25 for that particular paper. So it depends upon how you are writing. You need to ensure that total 2 points should happen. In symbiosis, we don't have that practice of first author getting more points, but state universities do have. However, when even in symbiosis, when you go for a promotion, it's important how many papers where you are the first author. And therefore, being a first author is an important milestone for any researcher. And it's his right. If I have been the major contributor of a research, and I should become the first author. So you and your research guide, because in symbiosis it's mandated that every paper that you write as part of your PhD should have at least two authors. One is you, the other one is your guide. So your guide will be the second author. You will be the first author if the paper is written by you. So that's the how it works. Now, what happened? Come back to the story that I was looking at it. Now, we made a recommendation to the journal to readjust the position of the authors to ensure that the corresponding author should be the fourth author. However, there was an
Sorry.
error, there was
Sorry.
some problem. The journal did not take that mail as serious and submitted and published a paper where the corresponding author who did not contribute except in sending the paper to the journal and getting it published, he became the first author. And the so-called first author became the second author. And then it created a lot of internal conflicts between those two faculties, and finally one of them left the institute. And these are very, very sensitive issues. You need to be very careful when we decide on the authorship status. Somebody wanted to ask a question here?
Yes, sir. It was me. You can hear me? Right.
Yes, Rahila.
So suppose if you're writing a research paper, as you are a new researcher, you're writing a paper with another researcher from another university. Still, you have to include the guide name if it is combined with another student.
Pardon me? You have to.
If I'm writing a research paper with another, I'm publishing a paper with another researcher from another college. In that paper, still I have to write my internal guide name, or it can be okay.
If you're going to claim that as part of your PhD thesis, because you have to show two papers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then you need to have your guide's name on that.
Okay, fine. So then the guide should be the first author and myself should be the
No,
second
guide
author.
will not be the first author. You will be the first author, and maybe guide can be the second author, and the third researcher from another university can become the third author. Based on the contribution. If you think that person also has contributed significantly to the paper, so the other person can become the second author, your guide can become the third author. So that is something that you have to discuss between the three of you as authors.
Okay, fine. Okay, sir.
Yes.
So, I have one question. So,
Yes.
in case of sponsorship from the different organizations or the so how it works actually?
You mean sponsorship? Say there are publication funds available. The two way of sponsorship that we are talking about. One is a funded research. So your research guide has got a fund. Then you are a research associated with that particular let's say Ford Foundation or IBM SUR kind of shared university research project, wherein you are a researcher. So you wrote your paper, and the funder is IBM. IBM will not ask you to make any of them as collaborators. So if one of the IBM faculty or mentor is there, they will never ask you to make that person as the first author. So you are the researcher, you got the fund from IBM, but you will be the first author. That's the general understanding. Second is there are funding agencies. So you wrote a paper, you submitted that paper to this funding agency saying that I want to publish this journal in an open access. I'll talk about what is open access later, in an open access journal, and the cost of publishing your journal, your article in an open access journal is about 2 lakhs, and you don't have that money. You are asking this funding agency to fund your things. Again, they will not insist on putting ABCD as the first author. They will let you to be the first author. The third aspect is that you associate with a faculty from a university abroad, where we are talking about 200 or $1,000. Now that $1,000 may not be a very big amount for that faculty in that developed country. However, it's a very big amount for you in India. So you get a collaborator, and that collaborator is going to fund the payment of the research, and that is where you have to be very careful. You have to make it very clear who is going to be the first, second, third author. Is that what you meant, Sujit, or something else you meant?
Yeah, I was talking like, so for example, somebody is doing research and he is in industry. So for my example, I'm working in industry. So if I'm doing a research on a topic where industry, my organization is interested in, right? So if they want to sponsor my research, and they obviously they will need the credit for that research, right? So how that works?
Well, that is again, before you do that, it is something that you have to make it very clear. When you're getting a sponsorship from a company to do research, there will always be a formal, what do you call, contract between you and the company, correct?
Yeah.
So you have to be very clear. So if you are doing it for part of research PhD, then you have to make it very clear that for you to get a PhD award, you have to become the first author, and your guide has to become the second author. And if your boss in the company, he or she will become the third author. It is with regard to publication. Now, the proprietary the thing, or the patent that you are going to create, that is something university.
My question is publication only.
Yes, Sujit. Sujit, you went on a mute mode.
Yeah, sorry, I did not get you your last point. There was some network issue maybe. Can you just come again?
What I was saying is that with regard to patents, copyrights, that was the last thing I said. So if there is a patent along with it, again, this has to be very clearly dealt with, because symbiosis would, as a PhD scholar, if you're doing something, symbiosis would want to be part of the patent filing. Again, that is something that you have to work with the screen. Even your guide may not be very clear on the position. So you will have to go to the Symbiosis Research Institute SCREE, and there is a patent officer. You need to clarify with those things. So how it works, because you as an industry person, the research industry would want a part of the patent that you are going to, if you are going to do a research and then file a patent, they would want a part of it. So how does it work? I'm not very sure about it.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yes. Any other? No. Good. So I gave you the example. This happens, and you have to be very clear what and who is going to be your co-author, who is going to be the first author, second author. All these are something that you need to. And journal these days asks you, when you submit a paper, to discuss each contributor. There are 10 researchers, 10 people together writing a paper. All the 10 has to declare what is the contribution author 1 made, author 2 made. So for example, I have to say that if I wrote a paper myself and Sujit Narvika, whatever. So SJ has done, this is the contribution of SJ, this is the contribution of SN. Say I have the ideation, I made the whole concept theoretically, writing everything I did. Data collection and analysis was done by third party. Review and editing, language editing was done by the third party, etc., etc. So you need to clarify, and journal asks you to declare who has done what. Because if journal feels that an author has not contributed anything and he is now as part of the author, then the journal would say, please, they will not accept your paper, they will reject your paper. So that is an important factor. Another thing is that, let's say four of you has written a paper, and one person, you did not include the name of one person, and that person has actually significantly contributed to the research, and unfortunately just before the paper was sent to be sent for publication, he was either dismissed or he left the institute and joined another institute. Now he is not part of your institute, he is in another institute, and you make a policy that your paper will have only your institute members going to be part of as the authors. Then that fourth person can write a mail to the editor. Look, I was the major contributor to this paper, but they did not include my name, and I want to make a formal complaint about it. So editors will have a problem. The editors can take this issue with you, and if you don't respond, then the journal can blacklist you. Now, what does COPE talk about? Now, I said there is this COPE. Now, if you go to COPE, there is authorship issue. There are a lot of examples. These are all example cases that they have come up with, or they have encountered. Say, for example, authorship issue from a disband consortium. So this is an example. There is a complaint somebody made. So say, for example, what I say, a manuscript was submitted to one of our journals on a special issue. The initial submission included 15 authors with 9 affiliations. The authors were part of a consortium which has now been disbanded. The manuscript was provisionally accepted for publication. Now, this was the case. So the whole detail is given. So this is what happened. The publisher took the following action. Removed the 3 authors from author list as per the request of the first author. Asked all 12 remaining authors to sign an authorship form attesting to the authorship. Included the 3 removed authors' name in the body of the article, where the summary of the consortium's meeting and attendees was noted. So they were acknowledged, but they were not part of the authors now. Informed the 3 junior researchers that the publisher would consider a corrigendum changing authorship if they could prove qualification for the authorship, and proceeded with publication. So these are some of the things. Now there is an advice. So any issue with authorship, you just ask COPE. COPE will give you an answer for that. So that is one issue. Another issue, say for example, editors of a scientific journal was sent a letter of complaint from doctors A and B, who noticed that a paper had been published online ahead of the print edition authored by Dr. C. Another problem. So say this is another issue. Our authorship issues are a journal received a manuscript which was a report of an evaluation and enhancement of an online clinical decision support system for a specific population at risk of a disease. It's a problem with that. So you can read the details. You can go into the COPE. You don't need to register any of those things. You just go to the website of the COPE and ask for authorship issues. You will get all these cases, and there are news, opinions. There are a lot more cases. The flow chart. This is another very important authorship and contributorship of unpublished data dealing with concerns. Authorship. There is also a flow chart of authorship and contributorship of published data dealing with concerns. Say for example, this is how the flow chart works. Full details of the detail is given in code. I hope that makes sense. That is about authorship. Now, let me see if anything else that I have not discussed in this example. Okay. So lack of standardized guidelines can lead to disagreements arising over the who qualifies as an author. I told you somebody who has contributed to the journal is very important. So International Committee on Medical Journal Editors, this is applicable to everybody, suggests that authorship should be based on substantial contribution to the conception, design, data acquisition, or analysis of the work. So you have to contribute in any one of these areas. Ideation, designing the research methodology, research process, etc. Uh, Data collection, data analysis, and the writing part. Drafting or revising the work critically or for intellectual content, final approval of the version to be published, agreement to be accountable for all aspects of the work. So these are some of the basics of author guidelines. Some of the misunderstanding can be differing interpretation of these criteria can lead to disputes. So there should be clarity, and that clarity is provided by code. Now, another kind of authorship issue is what they call guest authorship. Definition of it is that including someone as an author who did not make a substantial contribution to the research. A senior faculty or supervisors added out of respect or to increase the paper's prestige. Um, I had a friend, very good friend. He used to write a lot of research papers, and then he wanted to improve his position. So he started collaborating with his friend, his classmate, who was now doing his PhD in a university in the United States. The United States carry weight, and especially if it is Ivy League university, it carries further weight. So all the papers, he would write the paper, send it to that friend, and that friend would become the corresponding author. So immediate papers get published, and then citations also increase very fast in the process. So that person has not contributed anything in the process. Okay. Uh, There's some problem with my charging. So just hold on for a minute. My laptop charging. Sorry, my laptop just was trying dying out. All right, so let me come back to what I was discussing with you guys. So we were talking about the different types of authorship issues that comes across. Honorary guest honor or guest author. I will give you an example. One of my PhD student wrote a paper, a conceptual paper, and sent it to me. So I spent a lot of time editing, reviewing, humanizing, etc. I spent about 8 to 9 hours on that paper, and then she finally sent the paper for publication. I'm audible, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. She sent the paper for publication, but when she sent, she did not use my name. And when the journal accepted the paper, so she requested the journal editor to include my name. For an editor's perspective, from an editor's perspective, I became a ghost author or a guest author. I did not contribute anything in the editor's perspective. Editor is looking at me as someone who she added out of respect at a later period. So such things should not happen. So if you are writing a paper with your guide, so when at the time of submitting the paper, you have to include all the authors of that research paper. Then there is this concept of ghost authorship, excluding someone who made a substantial contribution to the research or writing process. So somebody has done a lot of work in the paper, but then you did not use that person's name in the publication. Order of authorship. I already told about what are the problems with the order of authorship. Dispute over contribution. So unclear contribution, lack of documentation, etc. So to clarify this, journals these days ask at the time of publication who has contributed how much and what, and it has to be communicated to the journal before. Authorship in collaborative research. So when you've got large research teams, these days this kind of research is happening, and in a lot of science-based research, say pure physics, chemistry, sometimes you've got hundreds of authors who are part of that research team, and everybody's name becomes an important thing about while publishing. So that's another thing about who is going to be what, where, what number. That's very, very important while submitting your paper. And changes to authorship. Now, say for example, you send a paper with 4 authors, and later on, one author did not want to be part of it. Now, this happened with me recently. One of my PhD students, she had contacted a person in the United Kingdom to be a co-guide. Now, somewhere or other, she was not happy with one of the papers that she wrote and sent it to a journal. So finally, the paper got published as a good paper. It's in Q1 journal, very high quality journal. Paper got published, but during the time of the communication, what was happening, this professor got into some problem with the guide, with the student, and then she said, I don't want to be part of this paper. Maybe because she did not communicate sufficiently with the guide, or she added the name of that co-guide without consulting that person, or she felt the paper is not good quality, etc. So she did not want to be part of the author. And then after submitting, maybe about a month or so, so she formally wrote a mail to the editor and to the student, etc., etc., to remove her as an author of that paper. So this do happen. Midway through the process, disagreements may arise when authors are added or removed without consensus. So this here the author was added without the consensus. Then she requested for the removal of that name, or sometimes it may happen that there is somebody who has done a lot of work and that name was not added. So in the case that I told you, I contributed and I'm a PhD guide, and she added my name much later. So these are all things that happen, and journals generally do what do you call, they accept these changes before the paper is published. Even after the paper is published, there is a process. Some journals allow the change of authors, the author's position, etc. It depends upon the editor's discretion. If editor wants to do that, it's possible. If editor feels that, if he does that and then the author, it becomes a bad trend, then he may not. So that's something about guest authors and ghost authors, then or change of the authorship, etc. Some of the things that you need to keep in mind. Some of the best practice to avoid authorship issues: discuss authorship much early. At the time of your research, starting your research, you need to ensure who is going to be the first author, second author, third author, etc. Document contributions. Keep detailed records of each team member's contribution to prevent any disputes later. And these are things that are very important when it talks about research that involves patents, for example. Now, once you completed the research, the patent is granted. Who gets a patent? Who all should be part of that patent, etc. Where these disputes can actually has a financial kind of side to it, and that therefore very important to keep tab on every contributors, how much, what kind of contribution each person does to the project. Promote transparency, resolve conflict promptly, acknowledge non-authors. As if you're a non-author but contributed something to the paper, you have a section at the end of the paper saying that I acknowledge the contribution of so and so in ABCD levels. So those are things that you need to keep in mind. Okay, so we discussed the and Coe says these are the ways that you can actually detect the authorship issues. Corresponding author seems unable to respond to reviewer's comment. Now, what happens? A reviewer sends a set of comments, make these changes, and the corresponding author is not able to address those problems. Then you realize corresponding author is not the first author of the paper. Then changes are made by somebody not on the author list. So you have sent the paper for review, and the review was done by a third party who is not even in the author list, because in the in Word and so on, there is always a watermark that is left behind by the person on whose computer the work was done. So these are things that cannot be deleted. So if the editor wants to understand, so it becomes easy for the editor to say, though this was not done by the authors, so why that person's name is not included in the paper. So document properties show the manuscript was drafted by someone not on the author list or properly acknowledged. So you send a document, that document has that property image, and so you get an understanding who has actually done the paper. So these are all ways to detect the authorship, that there is a problem with the authorship, and editors are very good in detecting such kind of issues that happens. Okay, so that was about the authorship. What is time now? Okay, 11:60. So we'll take one more and then we'll take a short break. The third thing that we need to keep in mind is the conflict of interest in publication. Conflict of interest in publication refers to situations where personal, financial, professional, or other interests may compromise or appear to compromise the integrity, impartiality, or objectivity of research and its reporting. Addressing these issues is critical for maintaining ethical standards in scholarly publishing. Okay. So these are the types of conflicts people talk about that happens in research publications. Financial conflicts. When an author, reviewer, or editor has a financial stake in the outcome of publication of research, say for example, you are going to produce, your outcome is going to lead to a patent, and that patent is going to be commercially used. So you would report in the publication something that will not compromise. So you want to prove that the patent, or so you can actually manipulate. There is a problem of manipulation that happens. So that is where a conflict of interest may arise. So for example, research funded by a company that could benefit from scientific outcome, or stock ownership or consultancy fees from entities related to the study. So um, probably you are a stockholder of a company, and then you're working, you are doing a research, and you want to publish a very positive review of that company. And once that comes, the stock prices of the company may positively improve. You get benefited in the process. So these are all things that constituted as what we call conflict of interest from a financial aspect. Then they talk about personal conflict. When personal relationship influence decision regarding the publication. Say the author and reviewers, they are friends, or the editor of the journal knows the researcher personally. So these are things that can compromise on the integrity of the papers. So that's another conflict of interest. If you realize that the editor of that journal, or a possible reviewer. So, one of the things they say is that when you are sending a paper, you have to be very clear that please don't send this paper to review to A, B, C, D professors, because they are part of the research, or they know about the research. So if you are in know-how, you know about it, then you have to be very clear to the editor saying that this paper was written um, with the help of so and so. Please don't send this paper to those entities or individuals. Professional conflicts, professional interests or rivalries affecting judgment. For example, competition between two research in the same field. Bias due to institutional affiliations. So I have written a paper. In the paper, I have mentioned the name of symbiosis, and the paper goes to review to, let's say, an IIM. I know IIM should not feel threatened by symbiosis, but then that faculty has got a problem with symbiosis, and then he may reject your paper. So this is another personal conflict may arise. Intellectual conflict. Strong personal opinion on academic biases affecting the interpretation of presentation of findings. Say for example, I as an individual has got a very left leanings. I wrote a paper which talks from a critical perspective, sent to a person who has a right to wing affiliation. And then I would say, no, this is not right. So they won't look at the merit of the argument of the paper. They will just say that this paper is written by a leftist, having a leftist ideology. Let us not publish it. Or say, for example, now we have a conflict between India and Pakistan. So you realize that the paper is, reviewer is, the journal's editor sent a paper of a Pakistani author to an Indian author. And then Indian author, the moment he sees that it is written by a Pakistani author, Pakistani, Dushman hai. So let us not get his paper published. So these are all intellectual personal conflicts that comes into. These should not affect. In reality, we should ensure that these kind of differences should never come in between evaluating or writing a research paper. And then, of course, editorial and reviewer conflicts also happens when editors or reviewers have interest that might bias the decision. Say, for example, reviewing a manuscript authored by a collaborator or a competitor. Uh, it can have positive or negative impact. Editors favoring research from their own institutions. So that's why institutional affiliations are important to mention when you send your paper to a journal. And and then they will ensure that the paper does not go to a person from your own institute. Again, your PhD thesis, it has to be reviewed by people. It cannot be reviewed by another faculty, very competent, but from the same university. No, it will have to go to somebody outside your university. So, what are some of the potential consequences of conflict of interest? Compromised credibility, skewed results in favor of or favoring the funders, favoring the sponsors, etc. Harm to public trust, unethical practices, zero confidence in scientific and academic institutions. So that can happen. Reputational damage to the authors. So these are all effects of conflict of interest. If there is a conflict of interest, this may be problematic. So, how to address the conflict of interest? Disclosure, transparency, these are very important. So, these days, journals ask you to disclose. So, you have no choice but to disclose the name of the authors, reviewers, editors, should disclose all potential conflicts. Say, as a reviewer, say you got a paper for reviewing and you realize that you know the paper, so you write back to the editor. So there is a conflict of interest. I cannot review this paper. So these are things that ways in which you can avoid conflict of interest. Transparency, clearly state funding sources, disclose affiliations or financial interest if there is any. Have an independent oversight. In case of potential bias, journals may involve independent reviewers or editors. That is why they talk about double-blinded peer review. Double-blinded peer review would mean that you will not know as an author who is going to review your paper. Reviewer will not know whose paper has come to him for review. So it's blind for both. So that's another thing. Many journals these days also send the paper to review with the names of the author. So author will not know who has received your paper, but reviewer may know whose paper has come to you. So those are things. So many journals make a double-blinded peer review, ensuring that nobody knows about it. Then, of course, COP. COP is the provider of the right and wrong. So always follow the code given by COP and try to avoid any kind of conflict of interest. So this again for researchers, for editors, for journals, how you need to become more transparent. So, for example, for research, proactively disclose all potential conflicts, even if they seem minor. Acknowledge funding and any roles played by sponsors in the study. So, this is what you are supposed to do as a researcher. All right. So, before going to the next one, we will take a short break. So, before break, any doubt, any suggestion, any insights that you want to share, please go ahead. Yes, Mangesh. Well, Mangesh, that is a possibility. It can happen. But then when we send a paper to a research journal, we are doing it with certain amount of trust. So we have to trust. And if we realize that the trust was breached and somebody has used the exact same thing that I have sent to the reviewer and that paper got published before your paper actually got published, then you can write with evidences and documentation to the editor and also to co. They will take the and if there is no response from the editor of the journal, you can write a letter to COP, COPE, because COPE is an organization authorized to take these kind of issues and discuss and debate. Okay, Mangesh. Yes, Apurva. You wanted to ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, my question is that if anyone research on, like, we see Gen Z impact on New Zealand and Switzerland, like that, we can also take a topic, social media impact on Gen Z in India, also, like that. We can
Yes, we
change.
can. See, in the research, let's say somebody did the research in the Swiss, in a European country, and you want to replicate the same thing in India, you have to acknowledge that you have taken the theory and the methodology from this particular paper, and what you're doing a retesting of that in a different context. So you should have a different set of data, but then idea, theory, everything can be same. But again, when you finally submit, the similarity of words and phrases should not be more than 10% in your paper. So you can test, you can take the same questionnaire that they used and replicate in India, same theory, methodology, everything. Only thing is that acknowledge that and take enough precaution that your similarity between your paper and that paper is below 10%. You can do that.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes. Similarity, when we talk about plagiarism, exact verbatim taking from that paper and putting it in your paper, saying that, I have taken idea from that paper. You can't use the verbatim quotations from that paper. You need to paraphrase, you need to make it contextualize, you have to make it yours. So your final paper, of course, as what Mangesh added, plus this language similarity should be minimal. Yeah, I think you are asking something about the process.
Sir, another question is from authorship. Guest author also get the points like co-author and author.
Yes, as I told you, public universities in India and abroad has got different point sharing between the first author and second author. So as I told you, bulk of the, let's say, 75% of the credit goes to first author. Many universities. If there are multiple authors, then the credit accordingly, the first author gets certain, portion, remaining people get less. So there is a proportionate division of the credit, but yes, there is an being a first author is an important factor. But from Symbiosis perspective, we don't differentiate the position, but when it comes to a promotion, being a first author does make an impact. So if you have got majority of your research papers, you are the first author. That means you have done the research. Your research credibility is more than the others.
Thank you, sir, for answering.
Okay, we'll take 10 minutes, 15 minutes break and come back. So right now it is 11:30. 11:45 we will come back again. Yes.